drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
And welcome once again, folks. It's our live Doctrine Call program for this evening. It is the 8th day of June 2021. This evening, Dr. Sonia Nixon is back with us. In fact, we are completing our series this evening, Abundant Life for Women. We did 1 and 2, and this evening is the final in the series of 3. As I said, Abundant Life for Women. Very important, very, very important indeed. And I trust that all our women are gathered around their radio or television or Facebook or YouTube channel to get the final episode, in this beautiful, beautiful series indeed. So we say good night to our friends on GBN TV 711, viewers on Facebook page and our YouTube channel, of course, K105 FM. Dr. Nixon, good evening and welcome back. How are you doing? How was the week? How was the weekend?
Good evening to the nice people of Grenada and whoever is listening to us out there. But I feel like I never left.
Well, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to.
I'm very good, thank you. A little tired. I want to say that I had my second shot of my COVID vaccine.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it makes me a little tired, but I'm good. I'm doing my civic duty.
Yes, indeed.
I was reminding people that vaccines save lives, and I remember I must have been 9, I think. Anyway, they had this outbreak of polio, and they just started the oral polio vaccine where they give you the sugar lump, sugar cube,
yes,
with a pink thing on top of it. But it's funny that everybody was just glad that you weren't going to get a Zugu. One, and secondly, everybody was glad they were going to get a lump of sugar. And of course, it was granulated sugar, which was, a premium. Nobody really used granulated sugar unless you make it sponge cake.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, well, so we had a lump. But what I'm saying to tell you that we are given, and there wasn't the oral polio vaccine was new. Right? We accepted what our research was done. There wasn't all the fight. And while I appreciate people's right to seek information to preserve themselves, this is what the world has developed to. I really want us to understand that sometimes the conspiracy theories will make us lose our lives. Yes. I said to one of my young friends last night that a lot of people died from the first dose of COVID-19 disease.
Yes, indeed. Thousands died from their first dose.
And he lives in the US. I remind him that 600,000 people in the US died from their first dose of COVID-19 disease. So he needs to make a good decision for himself. And the same, I want to remind our people that a lot of people have died. Trinidad has lost 500 and something people already in a very short period of time. I think Barbados lost 47, and it's gone on and on.
Jamaica has lost quite a lot.
Jamaica has lost probably 700 already.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Right, and for the same reasons that they have not been keeping the standard protocols. People want to go and party and walk up and down and do all kind of stuff and interrelate. I remind you that there was one guy who died from the main TV station, which would be the equivalent to GBN. Who was very well known for years. I mean, I've known that guy on TV for like 25 years, and he died as a result of COVID. He had taken the shot, but I think he took a shot late because within 3 days he was very ill and passed away. While two other very senior and very well-known reporters and commentators on TV also passed away. So we have to preserve ourselves because this is for everybody, and I really don't want to lose anybody that I know.
Well, Doc, I'll tell you this: you got your second shot. I was way ahead of you. I actually forgot.
Your third?
Well, that's what I have actually, as you mentioned it, then I but I got vaxxed a long time ago. I actually forgot I got my vaccines.
No, mine was a little. I was done like that because my first shot I kind of delayed because I was preparing to give a lecture. I know that I respond kind of the way I did, tiredness and fatigue and pain and stuff. So I had a lecture to do online. On live like
yes,
this, and it was a world thing, and I had a lot of preparations to do for it and stuff, and so I chose not to do it before the day. And then the following week I went and got it done.
Oh, lovely, fantastic. So folks,
and then this week I did it the day before the holidays. I gotta let my bed on.
Oh, of course, there we go. So Dr. Ned, we continue our the final episode in our series Abundant Life for Women, and this evening we're starting with our healthy working women. Yes, indeed. Very, very important, because our healthy working women, the contribution that they make generally,
surmountable.
I mean, it is you just cannot put a value to this. It is so important.
It's not only generating income, is the facilitation.
Yes.
So even when you have women who don't work, how they facilitate their spouses or the person who goes out to work. So you might have a family where one of the women doesn't go out to work, and you have 4 sisters or 3 sisters or even 2 single sisters living together. The one who stays home sustains the house. She also needs to be well.
Yes. Well, in her own right, she's a manager. I recall once on it was a Family Matters, I think it was, with Steve Urkel and so. I remember Harriet Winslow went to get a job, and the employer asked her if she had any management skills. And she said to him, you want management skills? Well, I'll give you. I'm a wife. That's a full-time job. I manage the home. I manage 3 children and all of that. And when she was finished outlining her responsibilities and her managerial experience, he just had to bow his head and give her a job. So
and think of it, the time when that show was done. Think of the differences, the disparities which we have not experienced in a black woman going for a job in a corporate world.
Yes.
Right? So even those things, she had to be able to overcome those just to keep her children safe and all the rest.
Yes.
So there are lots of things that we don't consider for women who don't have official employment, but who have so much more in making sure that your boys do their basketball and do their homework and learn manners and learn to cook and wash and clean.
Definitely.
Just preparing your children for life. It is important that you two are well. So it's not just the one who goes out there and brings in a paycheck, but like I said, the woman who sustains. And I was thinking of some of my friends who are very erudite professionals, especially like the lawyers whose wives don't work, and doctors whose wives don't work. But you see those guys, and they're always very well kept. They can go to the conferences. They're always very, very well taken care of because they have a spouse who sustains them. Yeah. It's important that she be well, because the day she gets ill or dies, he's a fish out of water.
I remember Doc as a little boy. In fact, I saw it sometime when I went to visit my mom. There was this little how do you call them? That you put up on your partition, little writings, and so it's fine. It was made of very light wrought iron, and it read and it was hung up on my mom's living room. Yes, living room petition. And it read, "A man works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done."
Never done, yes.
And that just goes to show the importance.
And that's why it is so important that we make sure our girls and our young women are well, because they still have so much more to do as they get older, as they become part of the workforce. And in our society, our women work hard and they work long, right? And they work long. First of all, women live longer than men anyway, so they still out there working even after their spouses are ill and or their spouses have passed. And they have the challenges where husbands might die younger, or there's divorce and separation and a lot of stuff that happens that ends up adding even more responsibility to you as a head of household, or just a person who lives in the household with a person, even if you're not working anymore. anymore. So those are the situations we have to consider.
You know, as you mentioned that, Doc, I have seen, and I know quite a few of them, very or elderly, way up in age. And we're talking about 70s, 80s, a little frail, and both of them are there. And that woman, that beautiful little old lady, is still the one that's going to go to the kitchen, even if she has to. It takes quite a while to get to the kitchen to prepare her husband's breakfast and his lunch, and it is just amazing, and it is so important, and this is why this series, I'm so fascinated by it. The abundant life of women. I mean, the role, if you just sit and you think about it, you give it thought, you would realize how important that role is.
And more so, we recognize how much disease railroads women's just existence and the ability to perform their roles in life. And that's what, because women have roles that are gender based. Your society is so divided and structured, right? What are your roles as a female? And sometimes you have to take on male roles in order to make sure that your family. But once you become in a situation, you put yourself into a place, or you're put often into a place where you have to sustain a family or sustain a group of people who live in a nucleus, it becomes a challenging situation.
It does indeed.
And so we want to ensure that a woman. I was at a little preschool opening today, and I thought of tonight, and I spoke about people having what we call health literacy, understanding what being healthy is about. This is only a part of it. How do I sustain this? Why is it I have to do this? It starts with having educated girls, because we know in societies where women are not as educated, they tend to have more babies.
Yes.
They tend to access healthcare even less. Okay, they tend not to pay attention to disease because they don't understand that it may be problems that they can solve early, and if they don't solve them, it will be detrimental and it might be fatal. So it is very important that women have good education from young, so they can make better decisions and better choices when it comes to their health. Because one of the reasons why, and I'm going to use the US because that's where we have a lot of statistics. So black women in the US do not have more cancer than white women. Okay. Black women die as a result of cancer more than white women. And why is this? This is because black women do not access care. Whether they don't have access to care, they don't have money, they don't have what it takes, they don't have proper centers around them, or the centers are inadequately prepared, okay? The black women actually do not have as good outcomes. And often, by the time they go to seek care and support, in the case of breast cancer specifically, they're already really very ill. There's advanced disease. The cost of advanced disease of managing advanced disease include like radiotherapy and a lot of things that could be avoided or would be totally unnecessary if you were diagnosed much, much, much earlier. And often it's so costly that you may not have access. Or sometimes people are so far gone as far as the health situation is concerned. Same thing with diabetes. We lose our limbs. Why do we lose our limbs? Because we don't control our sugar. We sell it in the store. We don't go and get professional care. We go to anybody. We cut our nails ourselves. We walk around without healthy shoes and all the rest of it. Simply because what's the other reason? The other reason is that we kind of don't make time for ourselves. Right? Because there's just so much to do for our family. So if I were working, I would have to make sure that my job is first because I have to have the money to take care of my family. I'm a single parent. Or even if I'm working where I have a spouse or somebody else who supplements the salary that the income that comes into the household. But there's just so many other things. There's my children, there's my mother, especially since we often sandwiched. There's your parents, there's your children, or the foster children, and then there's church, and then there's, you got me? And there are other things that you do, and you become the one at the bottom of the pole. You're the last. So you take your children to the dentist and don't make a dental appointment for yourself. You take the children to the doctor and you would make an appointment to do a pap smear. Right? You will do stuff and you wouldn't make a case for anybody else. So that is where the challenge comes. In us putting ourselves last. Women put themselves last, or they don't put themselves into the picture at all. So by the time it gets so overwhelming, there's almost nothing you can do to save your life, or to make sure that you can return to where you really should be. You know, there's kidney damage from hypertension and diabetes. You may have had a stroke. You may have heart problems. You may have loss of limb. You may have lose your breast. You understand? You may have cervical cancer, have to get chemo, whatever it is, because we tend to put ourselves last. And you know, we were talking about last time when mother cook. When mother cooks, right, and all the children, she makes sure everybody eats, and then she take the pot of the bun rice, and she pour it out in a gravy pot, and she sits on the corner by herself often, especially when there's not enough to go around, and that's her meal. But she probably develops anemia after a while if she's not eating healthily. She makes sure that everybody get a little bit of salad, a little bit of something, and there's little. No, it's all right. I'll get next time. Right? And women, we tend. It's just instinctive that you don't put ourselves first. But if we understand how important it is for us to also be cared for, how it is to look out for information, how it is to access care, how it is to even go talk to your friend if you're having problems, right? To go do some mental health care. How it is to just stop one day and just say, you know something, I go down the beach, right? Or go and walk up the road. I'm taking a walk. Or let me meet these ladies and let's go and have a prayer walk, whatever it is. Sometimes we don't. And sometimes because we're so overwhelmed with other things that we think are priorities. But you can't create priorities that are nothing. An empty bag simply cannot stand. And so it is important that our women recognize, especially our working women, because there's 8 hours that you have to give anyway that don't belong to you. You can't do anything in that. Right. Then you have to develop other 8. And then if you're studying, right? Because there are a lot of women who have not had the opportunity to go from high school, primary school to secondary school to college and do grad and study, and they have the capacity to do it, the mental capacity. They just haven't had the time. Oh, the women who wait till their children finish school before they go back and do their first, they go and do their first degree or their masters, or the young women who have had children, you know, as teenagers, and who have to wait until they can make some money because the family just too poor to a lot, and then when the baby comes is another thing. So we have to make sure that there's we also have to ensure, and luckily I think our health policies, our labor laws insist that women and men get equal work for equal pay. So that is something we don't have a problem. But there are other countries where that is a problem.
Yes.
Okay? In the US, right? We talked about it last week, where there is a problem. But think about it. You go to school and you get properly educated, or you don't, whatever it is, you're doing the same job as somebody, as a man. But often again, remember, women tend to have the domestic responsibilities, especially since there are so many households that are headed by single mothers. Okay? Yeah, father might come in and drop her money out. There's some fathers who, but the majority of households are run by single mothers. That is what we know in Grenada. So if I'm working 8 hours a day, and I'm properly trained, even though I'm doing what I'm doing, I can do it well, regardless of whether I'm washing or cooking all that. Why would you give somebody else a little more than me because you favor them? Or because you think because I'm a woman, I don't deserve it? Do you understand? So those are the challenges women have. And of course, we want to make sure that our women in the working age group have access to health care, particularly reproductive care. And I'm not asking for abortions at all. I want everybody to get that very clear. But we still don't want that a woman has too many children too quickly. You know, there's a lot of wear and tear. One of the things that happens when you have children quickly, your heart starts having challenges because it doesn't get a chance. There's so much change, physiological change in how your engine functions when you're pregnant. Right? Your heart now have to beat for 2 people, kind of. It has to pump a lot more blood around your system. It gets a little large. Your volume gets, your volume of blood becomes a little increased. So your heart have to work. If you don't get a chance to make it go back to normal and you're pregnant in the next year and then you're pregnant the next year, you stress of that poor little one heart that you have. And then, we tend to put on weight after we've had a baby. So then the heart even has to take care of a bigger body. So those are some of the challenges. Reproductive health in ensuring that women can make decisions as to how many children they want, when they want to start, how they want to space their children out, that they have care to antenatal care. And I mean, luckily we have those facilities. It's just that we want to make sure our women use them. Okay? Speak to your reproductive health nurse or your GP or the doctor in the health center. Look, I'm 28 years old. I think I want to have children. What do you think? Get counseling. Right? If you have sickle cell or you have another disease, if you have diabetes, you need to ask your doctor, is it okay for me to have a baby? And yes, it is, but it's going to take extra support. Okay? And reproductive health, now that I think I've had my babies, what I want to have? I don't want to have any children. That's your option. Right? How can I prevent myself from having children? Yes, there's some religious convictions. I'm Catholic, and the Catholic Church does not advocate for artificial contraception, but other churches do. And I don't think any church advocates for abortion because it's also a very difficult thing, right? But then women in the midst of that have miscarriages, 1 and 2 and 3, right? So, and ectopic pregnancies and those complicated pregnancies that can be life-threatening or it can be emotionally difficult. Babies that are born with malformations, babies that are born with severe congenital diseases that they have at birth, right? Children with Down syndrome, children with heart disease and all the rest that the mother is going to have to take care of. You're the one who's expected. You're actually the one who is designated, right? And so those are the challenges, right? With a woman, what if you have Down syndrome twins? Because I've seen that.
Oh boy.
Okay. Right? What if you have children who miss limbs, they can't hear, they can't see, and that need really special care, and that might take you out of the workplace and decrease the income because our social services systems are not as strong as they need to be. They're there, but when it comes to severe need, you may not be able to have somebody who supports that. Okay? Women must have physical access to care. The health center must be there. They must be able to go. They must be able to get in there. They must have ramps, right?
Yes.
If I'm an amputee or if I'm blind, I must walk to the clinic yard without falling down and breaking my nose, right? I must not have to go to my doctor and have to walk up five stairs, okay, 5 floors, right? It must be properly lit. I must feel secure when I'm getting in there. So my physical access should be guaranteed, right? Especially for my physical safety. Would I be molested? Somebody on the street? With somebody? What if I'm having challenges with my boyfriend and beat me up last night? God forbid. Well, God help him if he hit me last night. The point is, what if I'm having challenges? I need to go to the doctor, but I'm scared because when my doctor's place is not very secure, or I'm afraid that I'll be attacked by this man again, right? So one's physical safety must also be ensured when she's going to care. And of course, the big elephant in the room is that of mental health. Look at how many, I walk in St. George in the morning. Why are we having women walking on the street? Think of the vulnerability just not having a cognitive ability to make a decision for yourself. Plus, women walk around and they expose themselves, And
women like that, sometimes they're abused by
That's
people.
what I'm coming to. And they're abused and they put at risk for injury. Maybe not so much here because people see and make noise, but a lot of these women have children and we don't know who the fathers are, right? Are they at risk for sexually transmitted diseases? Are they at risk for getting coronavirus on the street? Are they at risk for picking up a pneumonia and nobody to take care of them? Are they at risk for malnutrition? What happens when they have a menstrual cycle? Who takes care of their hygiene?
Yes,
right? So, and just other simple things where you live within a family. Does your family understand that you have a mental illness, which is a thing? If you have diabetes, the internal medicine will see it. If you have depression or anxiety or schizophrenia or bipolar affective disorder or whatever it is, right? That you need to get mental health care. You have an alcohol or drug problem. So those are the things. Or women have challenges, but you may also have a family to take care of in the midst of all of that. And still trying to keep a job.
Yes.
How do you access care when you find yourself as a working woman involved in alcoholism or other forms of substances, right? So there are all of these things that we must consider because you still have your gender roles to play. Okay? Who encourages us? Who gives us enough information so we get our pap smears, our breast examination, that we get proper, make sure we have antenatal care? Do you know when a woman is supposed to start her antenatal care? You're supposed to start your antenatal care, not you, okay? Not you, because I'm worried for you. I want to be there in the room when you're delivering. But seriously, a woman should start ideally, you should start having antenatal care when you realize, oh, I haven't had a period. Mm-hmm. Gives us the best outcomes if we have good care. Okay, and you can go to a health center. I want to be seen. So you go for the first 9 months, you go first 36 months, 34 to 36 months, you go every month. Right? But then you can get all your tests. You get your blood tests. You see you have sickle cell. If your blood count is high enough, you get to check your pressure regularly to see if it's going up or down. Is this baby growing right? Are we going to have a nice healthy baby? How are you coping emotionally? Are you eating well? You know, what is your nutritional state? All those things. You get all of that support, right? And then after, you go every 2 weeks. And if you haven't had baby at 40 weeks, then you have to go every week, right? Because the baby is now overdue, right? But what if you develop diabetes in between and you don't know? Or hypertension, which are potentially fatal things. And not just fatal to you, fatal to your baby, right? Hypertension can cause you to have decreased blood flow from the placenta from the body through the placenta, and your baby can die. The placenta can separate, or you just have a baby that fails to thrive in the uterus. So there are a lot of stuff, right? Look at my blood pressure, my blood sugar screened every year or every so often, and especially if I have a family history, right? My dental care.
Yeah, very important. Very important.
And like I said, all mental health checks, right? A woman also need to have supervised births. One for company, of course, because we not even goat and sheep get people watching them these days, right? But they need to have supervised births where you have people who know how to birth a baby, who would understand that here's a woman who's in difficulty. We have birthing centers. Midwives used to come to our house when our mothers and our grandmothers are having children, right? They understand the process and they understand when something is going wrong. But now, luckily for us, the rule is that you really should have a baby, and the facilities are made that we have our children in scientifically based clinical settings, okay, that are sterile, that you can identify, you're monitored properly, how's the fetal heart going. So we should have less babies that have problems with cerebral palsy, mean that the brain doesn't get damaged during childbirth, and so they become they have difficulty in their mobilization, and of course they have learning challenges. So, and we can identify, we have less challenges of women bleeding to death after they've had a baby, right? Because you have proper monitoring and evaluation.
Right. So, Doc, before you continue, we need to take a short break, and then we're going to come back. So let's take that time goes by really fast.
We're having fun.
Yes. Let's take that break, folks. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Introducing Color by Seasons. 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 Color by Seasons.
We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall defend our islands and our oceans. To rid our waterways of plastic and other marine litter. We shall fight in the mountains, the valleys, on the coastline. We shall never surrender until every home on every street in our cities towns and villages in the OACS learn to reuse, reduce, and recycle plastic and prevent the pollution of our beloved ocean. We shall fight marine litter together with our sports clubs, our churches, the private sector, our schools. Join the fight. We shall never surrender.
This message is brought to you by the OACS Commission with funding from the Government of Norway. Remlit, tackling ocean pollution from turf to surf.
Hills and Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Sonatogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
Hey, look. With them coconuts, rum lemon, passion fruit, sorrel, even the exotic spice syrup.
Ah, the flavored rums of Grenada Distillers Limited.
Class coat?
Yes, girl. They are all produced by the Grenada Distillers Limited in Woodlands. You know, all their rums are world-class and internationally acclaimed, winners of numerous gold medals.
I'll have the spicy rum.
Grenada's #1 rum. We drink it on sport. Add a little flavor to your life.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex or give them a call 440-1015 or 440-1016 or check out their website hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
Welcome back, folks. It's Doctrine Call, and we just wrapping up on our final episode in the series Abundant Life for Women. Doc, we need to move on to our healthy elderly, but just before that, you were just, I think, making a final point on the issue of our working healthy women. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So one of the other things, and remember when Corona came, how much of women were affected by isolation, right? The relationships, the girlfriends. So the relationship you have with your family is one. Family as per the family into which you're born. The relationship you have within your family that you've created, your spouse and your children and stuff. Plus relationship you have with those extended people out there, I'm not talking about your cousin and all of them, yes. But relationships that you make at work, the social relationships that you develop, very important for support. Can as how we were worried about our children not being able to go out and play and not playing during Corona and all the rest of it, and how much it's stymied their social growth and happiness, right? In the same way, women accustomed to talking to their girlfriends. They have their conversations, whether they talk about hair, nail, children, family, God, whatever it is, career. Those are the things that give them some level of social happiness, joy, because they're able to share stuff, whatever it is, with counterparts. But it's also very important that there's male, female, or whoever, whatever gender you choose, that you have that kind of intimate relationships. But those relationships must be wholesome. So, for example, we want to ensure that women are not abused. And at any age it can happen. But especially, you're working and your husband always insulting you and telling you stuff, or your friends putting you down and all the rest of it, right? We want to make sure that people are not sexually abused, especially gender-based violence is one of the challenges we have in this community. And women must feel free to speak, to recognize it when it happens. No, he does not love you if he boxes you. No, he does not love you if he persistently insults you and puts you down. He loves himself. Okay? He's a narcissist. Okay? If he puts you down constantly. You want those relationships to be strong and with absence of stress, and that your partner doesn't bring home STDs, and that there's good communication and support. Right? Whereas and also relationship, your spiritual relationship, that depends on what your spirituality is, whether you're religious or not, whether you're Christian, Adventist, Baptist, Shouter, I don't care what it is, but that is also, those are things that give us that definition of health. It must be in a healthy environment. If it doesn't work for you, you need to step out and find an alternative. But all of that is going to come when you're in a place of mindfulness, that you understand exactly where I am today. Is what's happening in my life good for me or not? Right? We start losing friends because we see a lot of young people dying. So there's separation from friends and family. And we lose our parents, and sometimes we lose our children. So those are all of those relationships that we lose along the way. And we have to figure out, am I dealing with this or not? Should I get support? Should I not? Okay, how is it affecting my work? If I lose my job, how am I coping, right? And of course, one of the things we tend to forget, single women, because, we live in a world that tells us we should be married and have a husband and 2.5 children, or 3 or 4, and live in a nice house and drive a nice car, 2 cars, and have a bank job and a AC and all the rest of it. And that is just really the big old story. That's a story. That's not necessarily the truth. If you look at us, the majority of our relationships are actually very different. We have single people. You have people who are not married but live together. But we have divorced people, which is a form of loss.
It is.
When you're working and you're educating your children, all of a sudden your husband decides he wants someone who's just legal as a partner. Or you put on weight, or whatever it is, relationships break up. Or you might have different eyes for different kind of people. You decide you don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Separation from something you're accustomed to is hard. Divorce kind of reflects I want to get the word that somebody just don't want you anymore. They don't want you're rejected. It reflects rejection often for a lot of people, and it's a very hard thing to deal with. Sometimes you might put up a good face, right, but it's very hard being rejected by somebody who took you to the island. You make yourself look nice on that day of the wedding, and all of a sudden you're not actually, it was a mistake I made when I married you. Okay, so those are hard things. And of course, we become widows. And we watch our children go away also, and we have empty nest syndrome. We might be second parents. And when they go to university, and they go to university in foreign, and guess what? You know, come back. Or they leave St. Andrews and come in town to St. George's University, and they get a job in town, they ain't going back in the country. Right? Yeah? So, right? We have to also think about our women who have mental and physical and other forms of challenges. Women who might be amputees or slow learners, whatever it is. Those other women that we can't put on the periphery, women who are substance users and stuff. We spoke about that earlier. But we have to take them into consideration and make sure that there are sources of support for them. And often for a lot of them, they're not. We just talked about mentally ill women. Often they're not support for them, right? Especially like widowed people. And it's hard because you look at them in the church and the church where we all go on Sundays, and you lose your husband, everybody's there for the funeral, and when funeral done, you're on your own, sleep in your house by yourself. Especially now when it's coronavirus and nobody can go to anybody's yard, right? You and your husband alone live, or vice versa. One of you dies and the person in their house by themselves. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
One other thing I want us to consider, that women in working age also have other sexual preferences, and we sometimes, because we don't understand or we don't approve, or for whatever reason, whatever prejudice we may have, we tend to put them on the periphery. But it's known that there's often a lot of abuse, inter-partner abuse, okay, in same-sex unions, and some women are actually afraid just to seek care, because they have homosexual practices, and those prejudices, we tend to marginalize them, but they need to be included as human beings who require health care and who have their own need, because maybe they want to have children, maybe they don't want to have children, but they don't have a partner, they choose not to have a male partner. But those are women who also need our support, especially for emotional care. You're going to say something, sir?
Right, yeah. Just before we move on now to the health of our older women, we've spoken a lot about our working women and some of the challenge that they have and all of that. Now, aside from us doing this program here on Tuesday evenings and other things you might pick up on the television, how can we, as a people, raise awareness in our communities, to some of these issues that our women face? Is it the responsibility of our policymakers to ensure, for example, having health cares, having sessions like what you did, things like that, going to the communities and talking to our women, making them aware of some of the things that they can face as life go on, and how to deal with them if they arise. How can we raise those kind of awareness? What can we do? Should we go out in the communities?
Many years ago, right, we used to have a national women's organization that kind of encompass all the needs of women. We don't have that today, and that's an unfortunate situation. But we still have other structures, like we have parish development organizations, right? We have the Ministry of Social Development, and those are things we're going to have to do. I know the Ministry of Social Development focuses a lot on gender-based violence and poverty and all the rest of it. But the truth is, we probably need, as a country, to refocus on the needs of women, because the women's needs are just different from just looking at them as a whole population.
Wait, I want to just butt it. You mentioned something about the social services, focusing on abuse and things like that. Yes, and that is very important. But isn't it also important to teach our women how not to place themselves in compromising situations?
So it's going to have to go back to, isn't it going to have to, I'm going to ask you back, I'm going to do the West Indian thing and answer your question with a question. Is it not important that we empower our girls?
Well, of course. Well, that's exactly my point. How do we teach them? Because I always find that I have a problem with that. A lot of noise is made about the abuse and all of that. And yes, you should make noise about it. But I tend to get the feel that sometimes we start halfway. Because if you're not putting things in place to prevent it, then how are you going to get rid of it down the road?
So there are a lot of layers on this onion, okay? Because that is a whole week of shows, we can talk about that for a week. Because I don't think our women's movements are as strong as they used to be. I don't think, we haven't spoken about this. We haven't looked at girls' health until now. Okay, and why is it? We haven't put the gender relations in women's health and well-being on the platform. This is the first time we're really talking about this. And like I say, we don't have a strong national women's organization that looks at the issues that affect women. We look at some of the problems. We look at teenage pregnancy. We look at some nutrition, not specifically, although it's, in school. We look at poverty alleviation, we look at skills building, but when it comes to taking the whole thing in its entirety and focusing on the needs and the development of women, because it's going to have to start from girls.
Well, of course, and that is
when a girl is 14 and she comes home, right? And like I saw a young girl in the mall the other day, and I'm walking out of the mall, and there are 3 people. So the mall has these 2 seats, the massage seat by the port, you know, where the cruise ship comes in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there is a girl sitting in one of the seats, a boy sits in another seat, and the other girl is sitting on the guy. But I don't want to say it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the maternal instinct in me said, "Get up." I just said to her, "Get up." And then I realized I was kind of hurrying, so I couldn't really stop to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, "Listen, sweetheart, you kind of deserve a little more respect than that."
Mm-hmm.
But she probably doesn't know that.
She doesn't understand. Yes. Uh-huh.
Right? But I was really hurrying. I was behind schedule to do something. So I said to her, "Get up." And she got up immediately. And then I got to my car and said, "I wish I had the time to just sit and explain to these 3 kids."
And that is exactly my point. How do we teach them, or when are we going to start teaching them? Not because this is where it starts. Not to place yourselves in a situation where one, you become compromised, and then later on be abused. You know, and this is where I think it has to start, rather than starting at the point where they're abused. So there must have been the signals.
The education curriculum includes a component called health and family life education. I don't know how far, I haven't seen it and I really can't, but I think that would be a good place, you know, to introduce those issues as children can appreciate them, right, through their own partial life, that part of the lifespan, where you can bring up these issues, because those are real issues. The children identify it, okay? A mother told me today, and we were talking about violence. And this is a very stable family, really very stable family, good values and everything. But her 5-year-old has a supposed cousin who's decided he can slap her on her bottom. And his mother doesn't see a problem with it. Right? And she's upset enough to tell her mother and her teacher about it. But what I'm saying is that this poor child, this little boy, what does he know? What are we teaching him? What boundaries does he understand? What values has been instilled? And I'm not criticizing the child. I'm just saying, as an example, what is it? When do we start teaching? How do we put it in? How do we explain to our boys, that girls are different and that girls require a different level of attention and respect? How do we tell our girls that our men are different and they also require respect? Because that's a two-way street, you know, right? How do we teach our young girls to respect the men? If your mother tells you your father's a this and that, and every time he comes by, she cuts him off and tells him something bad. So the bottom line is this is a two-way street. And like I said, between the schools, the health and family life education, and having a strong women's organization that can influence how we develop women, because women come from baby girls. I saw there's a video I saw on that came out of Jamaica with a little girl. Hit me now, come hit me.
Yes, I saw that.
And I was almost in tears because I'll tell you why. This child was not joking. This child was mimicking adult, angry, disgusting behavior. And when I looked at the environment in which he lived, there was not one little flowers tree. So this is a very harsh environment.
And what was worrying about this? There were adults who were actually, giving fire to that kind of thing.
Exactly, encouraging that behavior. Because guess what? They also don't know any better. I looked at a child and I was in tears, and I'm like, she wasn't talking to another child.
No, they were actually teasing her and getting her to go ahead and do that kind of thing.
No, but she was pissed and she was angry, and she showed an adult kind of response. This child was like 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it. I recall seeing that. Yes.
Anger. And as I'm telling you, that is why community development organizations also have to be a part of this. So there are examples, and we can teach and we can support. The church also has a very big role to play in bringing up without isolating itself and talking about this religion and that religion and this group does that and how we perfect and all imperfect, right? The church has an integrated one church. Until we get to that point of universality as religious people, where we understand and respect each other, right? One church, one God, right? And that asks us to respect and to love each other. We in trouble?
Doc, just before we go, let's take a call. We have the telephone going. Doctor and call. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, caller.
Yes, I'm listening here, and something went through my mind that I experienced recently. Is it okay that a 10-year-old boy living with his mom, the mom should be able to dress and undress, and when she comes out of the shower, walk around in the room without any clothes on in front of him? Is that right?
That's a very ticklish question. And I think, I'll tell you what it is. Let me tell you how I look at it. I hear parents talking about their children locking their bedroom doors. I don't really think my children should lock their bedroom doors, but I think my children must also understand privacy. So I tell parents, you do not walk into your 2-year-old bedroom without knocking the door. If he's in there, may I come in? In the same way he will learn, may I come in? When he has a shower, you give him his towel and he's in his bathroom, and you say, and you explain to him, this is your private time. In the same way, he will know that that is your private time. So it's a matter of what we teach our children, right? But we have to teach our children that they also have a right to privacy, right? We feel like, because, come here, boy, no. Give them their private time. Their bedroom is their space. If you give them the bedroom, it's their space. You ask them to keep it a certain way, yes. But you don't just walk in and barge in. This is my house. I'm not telling parents don't go through revising their children and see what they're reading and what they have and this smoke. I'm not saying no. But I'm saying you still need to offer them a certain level of privacy. Teach them that there's privacy and the limits to which you would take this privacy. Okay, especially when it comes to their physical privacy. And I don't know that a woman should walk around with a 10-year-old son, because she needs to also you see, we learn more by what we see.
That's right. Yeah. I don't think it is proper. I don't think it's proper. This point. I don't think it's proper. I don't think.
No,
it's proper.
I'm glad as a gentleman bringing up this point, because a lot of women do it, and it's funny because I had somebody talk about this today, to be specific, right? Your child might know what female anatomy looks like, but he doesn't have to have details about yours. Okay? Parents should not be having intimate encounters in the presence of their children as little as the children are. You think the children sleeping? Or they're not. Right? And they don't understand it. They don't understand it, and they bastardize it, and they are confused, and they will talk to their 4 and 5-year-old friends about it. That's unfair to them. That kind of intimacy is for big people, guys. That's why we get even embarrassing somebody walking on us. All right, it's a thing for big people. It's between 2 adults. That's something that we should not traumatize our children with, and we need to explain to them that mommy and daddy, mommy and her friend need to have these private times. That does not include you. It might be a little hard at first, but we need to, and teach them that kind of activity is not for little people. That's for big people.
I think though that problem arose from way back when children were given different explanations about different things, and I think that didn't help at all. Rather than just teaching what is supposed to be taught from an early age, so that they grew up understanding what is and what is not. So now let's
boundaries and boundaries.
That's right. Yes, indeed. So we're going now to the health of our older women. Very, very important indeed, because a lot of time the older women are called upon to take on responsibilities as well. So let's touch on that one, because I think that's very important. The end of reproductive span health problems related to menopause and so on and so forth.
So older women, and I would probably say after 60.
Yes.
I start to get embarrassed here. But no, they have grandchildren, and sometimes they ask for support. So they also need to be well to help. Here in Grenada, we retire at 60. That's our legal retirement age. So if you're self-employed or if you work in private sector, you might work a little later. But by 60, you probably have one grandchild or two, right? Or you might have nieces and nephews who have children, and you come like the grandmother. But it's also important that you maintain your thing. You'd have been through maintain your health. You'd have been through the whole challenge of high blood pressure and diabetes and all the challenges. By the time you get to that point, if you're going to have them, you probably already had them. You'd have been through the challenges of cancer and all the scares and large bowel cancer, whatever it is, okay? You'd have been through the whole issue of menopause and the loss of self. You don't look as hot as you did when you were 25. Well, the truth is, you're not supposed to look as hot as you did when you were 25. Okay, let's get real. There's something wrong. A 60-year-old should not look like a 25-year-old. That's kind of unnatural, right? Some women are preserved better. But you may have already gone through challenges with alcohol and all the rest of it and still struggling. But a lot of women, emptiness because their children gone away, right? Or they have never had children. So, no. Or they have, their spouse goes, their spouse dies. Or the man, like I said, the man left and gone, right? But, of course, we have other things like excessive bleeding after a certain age, fibroids and stuff that come like from the 40s up to the 50s, again, up to the 60s. Postmenopausal bleeding, which postmenopause means after menopause. Your period just stop for 12 months, and then on month 14, you start bleeding. On month 28, you start bleeding. That is a red flag. Go see a doctor. It could be cancer of the uterus, right? So it's scary if you're alone. It's scary out, and it's scarier if people are alone to go seek care because they're afraid of getting those terrible diagnoses. Okay, we see other diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia.
Yes.
When they say from 60, and I'm convinced because I still can't find my charger for my phone that I pick up this week to say on Friday. I'm taking it to work and I still can't find it. It's not in the office and it's not home. And it's not in the car, so God help me. But we see dementia and it's frightening because we recognize that I'm forgetting a little more, right? And then there's isolation. There's isolation to suffer because everybody has their own problems. There's less money coming in. So when you get to in our situation, we only get NIS and you don't get a thing, you don't get a pension. There is a decreased income, often by far. You may not have finished paying for your house. That's stressful for the next 20 years, right? And if it's a time when you manage to gather money to pay down on a house, and no bank giving you no mortgage. Right? So you might find yourself unable to pay the rent that you're paying all along. You might have to go living with other people. That takes away from your privacy and the comfort that you've been able to enjoy. Okay? Especially if your spouse passes. When you have a single income. So there are those challenges. And then, of course, menopause comes with its hot flushes and mood changes and everybody think you're too miserable so nobody comes around you.
All right, Doc, just take a pin there 1 minute. Let's take a quick call. Doctor and call, good evening. Oh, we lost it. Yes.
Yeah. So coming with menopause, and that whole feeling of vulnerability, you don't really have the support that you have. You lose your job. You lose what you're accustomed to do. You may have had one occupation for the last 20, 40 years, right? And you come to this point where you're older. And you're useless. You don't. What your sense of worth has disappeared. So your grandchildren gone off to school, gone off to high school, gone to college. You bring them up. Everybody are they gonna be their mother in America, right? Here you're left all alone again, right? And that vulnerability that women feel, that you think about death a lot. And sometimes as you get older, people get what you call melancholy. There's that depression that's really in women. And and we may not understand it, right? And you may feel a little isolated because nobody, even like when you go to church and have prayer group and stuff, you really don't have that desire to go. And depression is one of the biggest problems that women have, and we don't understand that they do have those problems and they need support.
Okay, let's try that call again. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Yes, good evening.
I'm Godfrey. A very interesting program. Now, between the father of a young girl or the mother, I do believe the father does not approve of this young girl or young lady, the kind of clothing she have on her. But the mother accepts it most cases. Like, and she going within a crowd of people, men and all kind of thing like that, and you could see she almost naked. And I think this is a bad signal. And one of the next thing I want to talk about concerning the, as you said just now, like the mother might walk with just a bath towel around her and therefore her body more or less exposed, which is very, very bad. So I think, okay, I'll give you one of the story ones. This is a true fact. A young man and a young lady was in a relation. So he decided now to finish with the relationship. So she decided, well, she'll take a shower. But she put some battle around her, and as the battle fell out, he called her and he changed his mind. He said, I don't worry to go again. Because he has seen her exposure. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And again, it comes to the social issues and being exemplary to our children, regardless of their genders. And it's funny that the men are talking about women exposing physically to their young children and stuff. So maybe our women need a lot of support in that area, because, you know, we came to a period of a time of liberalization where everybody do what they want and stuff. But it's not acceptable. Mm-hmm. It's not acceptable. It kind of lowers our social and moral and emotional standards and create a lot of stress for our children who have not been taught how to make good decisions, right? Because they have not lived in an exemplary situation. So I wanted to talk about older women who, after a lifetime of deprivation, had productive and reproductive labor, they end up having a lot of ailments like arthritis. You know, they work hard, they burn coals, they cut wood, they drove big yam on their head. You understand? They work long hours, it's not for their foot. They have varicose vein, they get back problem, they have osteoporosis by poor nutrition and stuff, right? Things like prolapse of the uterus after many babies and challenges the uterus and having urinary incontinence. Those are a lot of things that women can have as a result, and that is gender specific. Okay? Gender, because remember we talked early, women are not made for cutting tree and wood. God never designed us like that. That doesn't make us so soft. Okay? Yet we've had to engage ourselves in activities like those, often for survival of ourselves and survival of our children. Often women who are left alone with a barrage of children, or even two, that we decide, you know, I have to provide for. Women who are not as educated as they can to get themselves to advance themselves as far as they want. Older women too already, like we talked about, had other metabolic diseases like hypertension and diabetes and cancers, with all the complications that could have had. Okay? We talk about widowing and above all, not having a lot of money, which is a chronic problem. And not having, you know, money is going to help in everything. Money, although we have some social services for our health, sometimes you still need to buy some of the medications that work. Sometimes you still need to buy the food for the nutrition at work. Older people at greater a risk for abuse, whether you thief their money, whether you beat them up, especially if they have dementia, whether you don't feed them appropriately, whether you leave them home, lock up in the house and don't talk to them and they don't have access to anybody, whether you decide that nobody's going to come in there because whether you decide you're going to put them out and thief their insurance policy because you want their money because you're their young grandson who bring them up, they are subject to abuse and isolation and being scammed, because we know how the scamming system went for people in the US, and it has happened to people here. Older people being scammed because it's just nice for somebody to call you and for somebody to offer you hope. Right? Which is what they think they're getting. hope. Here's this young man who's called me and give me some money and tells me, I just need to put it and I get 40,000 times what I'm getting. And the vulnerability is what comes to play here. Okay? Loneliness and depression. So I see in I think it's in Germany, somewhere in Europe, in England actually, where they have the daycare in the same space. So that's preschool children, right? Children 3, 4, 5, okay? In the same space, 3, 4, 5, up to 6, as the seniors. And you see the grumpy old men happy. Okay? You see them happy because they have their little buddies, the children who they take care of, and they have their friends that they make, and there's that rejuvenation, and they talk again, and they smile, and they give jokes again, and right? After that, we take a lot of our nursing homes, just put people in there to sit down so that they pass to give them lunch, bathe them, just that so they can pass the days. We need to have occupation, things that they can do. We need to have, you remember in the days of the revolution when the seniors would go into the school and teach the children skills and how to dance, lancers and all this stuff, so tradition can be passed on. We need to have that interrelationship in the ages so that our children can learn from the older people, and the older people can learn, and children they can be active and all those things, because that's one of the other things we do not include activity, physical activity in the lives of our seniors. After a while, some people feel that once you get old, and I hear it, and it's really a sad thing, once you get to 50, 60, a lot of women tell you, hey, I old now, I ain't have time for that.
But it affects. I mean, people age differently, but you can actually age well. And there are things you can do to help you to age well, so that you don't just there in a corner and you just all shabby looking. And you can prepare for that.
So what we do for older people, and we worry about vulnerability, like in the case of hurricanes and natural disasters. We live in an environment that's very prone to natural disasters. Hurricane, yes, we prepare, and this is hurricane season. But is Mr. Joe next door that live in a little wooden house, can his house sustain a hurricane? If I batter the windows up for him, if I make sure that his windows are okay, are they okay? Will he have water after the hurricane? Will he have his medication? So that's where the community comes in sustaining the well-being of our seniors. Miss Mary, if a hurricane comes, her house might be safe, but is it safe from the wind? But is it safe from the river? Right? Is it safe? Can she have food? Will I go and make sure that she has a stock of food and a lamp? Or do I really want to leave her in a house by herself during a storm? An 8-year-old lady who probably can't see when light go, can't see to light a lamp. Would you catch a house of fire?
Let's take another call, Doc, quickly. Dr. and Call, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Call. Go ahead, please.
One second. Yes, are you hearing me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Good evening, Dr. Nixon, and good evening, Godfrey.
Yes, good evening, Call.
I sit down and I think, Dr. Nixon is somewhat old when you go down in age, 60 and over. I think from a medical point of view, I'm a veterinary surgeon, and we have, like Dr. Nixon and myself, we could work until old age. And that doesn't mean we are that young, but you could sit in your chair and they could bring patients to you. Unlike other people who are retired at the age of 60, but they're going to 65. And once they're retired, you find they remain indoors, or they might go to the garden, and they get little money, Godfrey. They don't get a good pension. People get $300, $500, and there's nothing you could do with that. And most of the time, there are a lot of youths, people who were youth like me and you before, and they took a mortgage, for example, 25, 30 years. Now they are 60, but sometimes they did not have a very good job, and they have to be paying the mortgage. Sometimes they are single parents, and sometimes it's very, very hard for them. Even the older people, I think government should put things in place whereby when they are sick, they could get medication like in some country. You are old, and you still have to be fighting up. I see people on the street begging for money to buy things like eye drop. I give them most of the time. Sometimes they are just worthless. Sometimes they don't need it. But that's the reality. I think government should come with a program whereby but not everybody, but those in needy, that the one medication, they are sick, they should help them. But I see a lot of people on the street, Godfrey, begging. They don't have money to buy this, they're not in a hospital. You know, when these people get old, from the time I reach 60, and that's why I don't want to say it on the radio, I have an issue with NIS sometimes, especially when these people dies. You see, the only thing they give them $2,300. I think, and they might not agree with me, but a lot of money you put into NIS, for example, you are 17 years of age, you start to work, and when you reach 65, how many contributions you may have contributed to NIS? Thousands and thousands and thousands. And as you know, in this time, a lot of youth, a lot of people within the ages of 45 and 60 are just dying out. So that means you have no benefit, and the only thing you will enjoy in NIS is if you go down to 100, 89, 80, 90, down there. But from the time you reach 60, 55, 60, a lot of it just dies out. You understand? So that's the issue I have with NIS, that they should pay the people funeral. Forget about the happy hour. Just pay the priest, pay the burial, pay everything. Because $2,300, that's nothing. You understand? For the amount of contribution you would have contributed. I don't have a problem with them because, as I said, I could work until I fall down 100 years. You understand? But I think they should put it in place, especially for the older people, as Dr. Nixon said. When you're old, you tend to stay inside, a little recreation, a little activity, pay a little bills, medically, and so on. That's my contribution tonight.
Thank you very much, caller. Thanks a lot indeed.
Yes. And I want to thank you because, again, our social services doesn't offer enough for activities, for continued life, living for our people. We don't have occupational and recreational therapists around who can make sure that you can go to the community center in your church and dance and play bingo and laugh and give old joke and have prayer group and whatever it is, have book club or whatever it is. We need to do those things because we have to preserve. And we need the minds of our elderly to be able to help our younger people. One of the other challenges and the risk, and I want to bring this up, is the risk of falling.
Yes.
So, and breaking. If you fall and break a hip, you're very likely to die. You have over 80, you have 80 to 90% chance of dying because you get clots into your lungs and stuff. You get what we call embolus, something moved from the bone, sometimes the fat in the especially if the long bone, the femur. You can die. So it is important. How do we ensure you're older people are weaker? When we have Tai Chi, where they can get up and go and stretch and dance and stuff, what are we doing? We have to create activities, and we have to make sure that our social services are extended to make sure that people who live long and live healthy. Because they are forgotten group, They're just there. Hey, Miss Jane's still alive?
Yes,
lady dead long time, I don't see her.
Yes, you get that.
That's not good. Communities also need to extend themselves. We have community groups, they need to extend themselves. We need to offer physical and emotional support to our elderly. We need to offer spiritual support because often they can't go back to church. I know in the Catholic Church, for example, the priest and Anglican, the priest go give communion, right? But who sits and chats? Who prays with them if they can't move? We must make sure that they have access to health care. And a recent caller talked about not having all of the medication, which is unfortunate. And I know that eye drops are expensive.
Oh, yes.
Okay? And some other, listen to me. My daughter lives in the US, and I sent her some nasal spray for her allergies recently. And the copay in the US is $90 US. That's what she pays after her insurance pays for it. And she has decent insurance. So there are lots of medications that are not on the government formulary, that book that the government offers you at a discounted rate when you're over 60. But there are lots of other drugs because they need eye medications. Often you need a little more expensive medications, different medications. If you have glaucoma and stuff, you need other medications if you have heart problems. And some of them are not on formulary. And even today, in treating diabetes, we have newer medications that are a lot more effective, have less side effects. But they're expensive. They're not even available on island. Some people have to bring their medications in.
Okay, let's take another call quickly. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead, please, caller.
Yeah, well, I was listening to you and Dr. Nixon there, and then one thing came to my mind. She was talking about all this, like the training of people and what they should do in old age and thing. And one of the experience that I had is like I was working, the company I was working for, they had a program that when we reach 50 years, you go into a training program and they're training you for retirement, preparing you for when you're going to retire. So you know that, okay, when you're going to retire, if you were saving $100 this year, start saving another $2, because by the time you're ready to retire, things will be more costly. And all these things, and even though you have a big house and you're going to, the children have to build a bigger house. You give them the bigger house and let them build a small house for you. Even to change your refrigerator, your stove changes things down somewhere down the line. And what they did is, even the last day, they even encouraged some of the men to bring, whether it's the wife or the common law wife, whatever, to invite them in to come and sit with us and listen to what they were saying. And it was a very interesting training. They prepare you when you reach 50 for going down the road. But I think, right now, this time now, I think that program will finish, because when I was leaving that program, they wasn't doing it anymore. And that was a very good thing that company was doing, training you, preparing you for retirement. And when they call in, one of the ladies said, one of the things that is even cause confusion in the home, because women are accustomed with the paycheck coming, and when you retire and that paycheck is not coming anymore, that creates problem. You may just sit down in the house. After three months, you sit in her house, and she might say, well, why you don't get up and get something to do? And just that could create a problem, because she was home for 30 years just getting a paycheck, and you just come home only for 2 months, and she's saying, why you don't get up and do something? And sometimes she may not mean anything wrong, but just the way she said it create problems.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a very important point. It talks and it encompasses financial and social security for elderly. Some of private sector have employer system programs and very good welfare programs, okay, that ensure that the employees are prepared for retirement. Should this be part of the outlook that our union should take? Are we going to continue to allow workers to be non-unionized, because unions have that kind of power, right? Because are we going to make sure that we can train, like the young man says, inform people that, okay, you're 25 years old and you join the company. When you're 60, you're going to have to leave. So you need to plan. Okay? And that is creating security. And financial security will ensure that you have food security and housing security and occupational sometimes, and that your nutrition is up to date. So this is a bigger social problem that we must address. Okay? There are lots of people who work in this country who are not affiliated to any union or any agency that will support them. Right? Lots of people, and that will give them that kind of guidelines for taking care of themselves down the road. How much do you save? Does your company have an obligatory saving plan where they make sure you save $60 a week? I'm just saying, if you have it, right? So that when by the time, if you save $60 a week, 65, 6 is up 30, that's $3,000 a year, right? If you do that over 20 years, multiply 60 by 20 is $120,000. That's what it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with interest, you would have, let's say, $150,000 over time. That's so that you can have something, some nest egg to hold on to. Does your company encourage that? Right? Does your company encourage a program of exercise and recreation? Like I said, we don't have that. Who does it? Right? But it has to start from your working age. The biggest other problem is that whole thing of companionship, as we said, but also inclusion. Our seniors tend not to be included in activities, even in their families, because they have physical challenges. We probably don't like our grandpa drool, so he's not coming to family dinner. Okay, we're not bringing daddy to work to the meeting because he had a stroke and it take too long. Take too long to carry on this stuff. Daddy got to stay home. We go bring food for you. But in truth and in fact, he wants to come and see his other brother and his sister and his cousins and their grandchildren and all the rest of it. So are they included in activities? Do we allow our seniors in our church to teach our children something that they know? Or even the house? Are they part of the family? Does grandma still cook her favorite rice and peas? Probably the best rice and peas cook. Or grandpa probably make the greatest crayfish broth, right? Are we including them? Are they part of what we're doing? Are we inviting them to our weddings? Okay, those are important things. All right, so they could come and explash it. You know, they talk, I think that'll make sense, but it make the wedding nice. Okay, are we providing safe environments? Who does this? Exactly who does it? Have we, as children, been exposed to what it is to be healthy? Have we, as young women, been exposed to what is to be healthy? Have we prepared ourselves well enough? I can't tell you because I see 2 minutes stuff. Have we prepared ourselves well enough? Have we been guided as to how do I stay healthy so I can have a good baby, right? How do I take care of my child, make sure she gets all the vaccines, right? How do I ensure that I'm protected from whatever? Am I driving safe? Am I driving drunk? Because I see some alcohol that some young girls drink, make me wonder, what did I miss?
Yes.
How come I never get that lesson? Okay? Do I understand when it's time for me to go check myself? Apart from preventing and eating well, do I eat that thing in that box every day, a box food? Or do I, plant a little garden outside? This is nice rain. God give us nice rain these last days. Am I going to plant 6 head of lettuce, 2 okra tree, 6 cucumber stem, and half a dozen tomatoes, and get some food when summertime comes? Right? Am I going to buy breadfruit? Am I going to buy white potato? And I tell everybody from now, I don't buy white potato, okay? I don't know, white potato is not for us, okay? Make our blood sugar go up too high. But the point is, am I preparing myself to the lifespan? Do I understand? Are we doing this thing right? Maybe we're not, right? Do I have money for, just in case I don't have children, so I can go into a nursing home? Do I want to go to a nursing home? Have I saved? Do I have the capacity to save? Because that's one of the other things that we need to think about.
That's a big thing.
Do I have the capacity to save? Or do I live so hand to mouth? Right? Have I been able to make use of the education? Have I made my child, right, use the education? I know there are a lot of women who encourage, and I've heard enough, encourage this guy because I'm having sell their daughters to men and all the rest of it. We are not preparing our women like that for independence and for safe lives, because often these young girls become victims on top of the abuse of their parents. Make sure sell their farm their daughters to men, these really disgusting men, because I don't know what it is about young meat. Go buy chicken if you want young meat. I'm sorry, pink, yellow chicken, chick. Okay. Are we making sure that our daughters are safe from violence of all kinds and abuse of all kinds, right? Are we giving our daughters that sense of self so they can appreciate themselves as women? Because those are women's issues, okay? So that she understands the boundaries and she doesn't expose herself to a 10-year-old or a 6-year-old boy. What are we doing? How is she processing all of this, right? And is she ready when at the end of her lifespan, has she been healthy enough so even if a cancer or hypertension and stuff develops, she understands this and she can be taken care of. This is a big problem, right? Women's health is not everybody's health. Women have special needs. They're special people. Yeah, I know that I'm special. You know that, right, Godfrey?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Definitely.
No, but we're different. We're built differently and require a lot more support and we have a lot of need. Above all, we kind of need to support each other. Sometimes it can be our own worst enemy. We understand best how we grieve. We understand best how we deal with loss. We understand best how we feel when we're isolated. We understand best how it feels to be abused, physically, sexually, and otherwise. We have to be our sisters' friends. We have to understand why an old lady must not live alone. Or if she lives alone, that there's somebody who looks out for her 24/7. We must understand when dementia comes and she becomes miserable, that is only dementia. She can say whatever she wants, but she deserves better care. Okay? Okay, and we must prepare to preserve the life of our women, the lives and the well-being of our women, from the cradle to the grave.
Mm-hmm. Doc, that's all the time we have. I think we.
But I think that's it.
Yes, basically, yes, indeed. Just that older women, self-care is very important. Healthy lifestyle, regular screening. Of course, you do your self-examination, your clinical examination, mammograms, ultrasound, things like that. And of course, keep yourself active. An active brain is one of the main things in aging well. Read, look at television, follow the news, keep yourself in tune, yes, with what is going on. Yes, keep your brain active, and definitely you're on the way to aging well. Dr. Nixon, thank you so very much. It was such a pleasure. I enjoyed this. You wouldn't believe this. I enjoyed this. Don't charge me for copyright if I use a couple bits of it ever so often, on my programs. Please don't charge me.
No, I have a commitment to share.
I value that's because I value it so highly, and I think it's important that information like that has to reach as far as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So until
this was fun doing it, and I feel sad most of the time because I tell you, we're only 100,000 people. We're not a lot of people. And I really hope that there comes a time when our social services understand that we have to structure ourselves for the well-being of all. We talk about prosperity and talk about wealth and stuff, and people living well. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't take a whole lot. We kind of need to come together and work this out.
Oh, definitely so. So, Doc, next week, you won't be with us next week. The following week, we'll be talking
about sickle cell.
Sickle cell, yes, very, very important indeed. So next week we'll be having another doctor, folks. Stay tuned. We're gonna have another excellent program. I'm trying to find my calendar.
Did you know that the first person in the world that was subject to research for sickle cell is from Grenada?
Yes, St. Patrick.
So, and that is why I'm so impassioned about it. I feel that we have heritage, heritage.
Yes, indeed. And, indeed.
I'm happy. I'm sorry, I was distracted, but I'm happy that the Sickle Cell Association has been doing a lot of work with people who have full-blown sickle cell disease, and we hope to reach out further. Oh, by the way, we're having a breakfast on the 27th. That last Sunday in June. So we're going to ask because we use money for helping people to get their vaccines, educating them, having camp, and running our clinics and all the rest. So, and screening for people. We've been screening some of our young people to see who has sickle cell, and so we can understand. Because remember, a girl may have a sickle cell trait, but she may marry a guy who has sickle cell trait, and that increases the possibility for them to bring a child. 25% possible chance that they have a child with full-blown sickle cell disease. Okay. So if we screen, the more we screen our men and our boys, there's screening for our newborns, but the more we screen our men and our boys, the less the challenge, the possibility of having children born, because we can do genetic counseling for them.
Right, wonderful. So, Doc, we'll be talking soon again. Thank you once again so very much, and we're looking forward to getting into the whole issue of sickle cells. Yes. So until then, have a good night and all the best.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, that's our program tonight, folks.
And please remember to get your vaccines, people.
Oh yes, indeed.
Go there, free of cost.
Yeah. So, folks, that's our program for this evening. Thank you so much for staying with us. Our viewers on TV, Facebook, YouTube, we thank you very much. Don't forget, tomorrow evening, be sure to join us. We have our Wednesday evening edition of Release It. You can join us then. All right. And next Tuesday, of course, Doctor & Call. So take good care and do have a good night.